All right, thank you for joining us. This is another Mile High Huddle hangout on air. My name is Luke Pogles. I'm joined, as always, by the indubitable Chad Jensen.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Luke, good to see you. I'm ready to talk some Broncos.
All right, so as you hopefully know, last night the Broncos took down the Indianapolis Colts in pretty good fashion, defeating them 31-24. Uh, Perhaps the game was closer than the score would suggest. Perhaps it wasn't. I don't think it was. It was kind of um, a Andrew Luck comeback special. Chad, your thoughts?
Well, I got to say that I think the 2013 Denver Broncos would have lost last night's game. Um, had they built up the lead like they did with last year's defense, I don't think we could have stopped Captain Comeback, aka Andrew Luck, from pulling out, his late game heroics, which he has become probably the premier quarterback in the NFL for those comebacks, as we found out, and at least the Chiefs found out the hard way in January. But I don't think that the defense last year could have held like we saw. We saw some plays made in crunch time, especially by the rookie, but especially by some other guys like DeMarcus Ware. Keith Talib made some plays. Raheem Morrow, of course, with his two interceptions. Bradley Roby on that big fourth down stop, as well as that goal line stand on third down where he stopped Hakeem Nicks from nosing into the end zone there on that slant. But to me, it was encouraging. There's some people in Broncos country who are wringing their hands a little bit over what we watched yesterday. But the truth is, the Broncos are reloaded. They're tough. They're still working out the kinks. It is game one. I'm not going to worry too much about the offense stalling in the second half. But I mean, those are just my quick thoughts, observations. But what do you think of the game?
hmm First of all, offense looks fine. We were missing Wes Welker, not playing Wes Welker. We still put up 24 points at halftime, 31 points in the game. The offense did stall out a little bit in the second half, but with Welker, those short passes, you're going to move the chains a lot more effectively. Now, was the offense perfect? Absolutely not. Um, Caldwell in particular had a bad game. Demaryius Thomas in particular had a bad game, but they can improve from that. They can grow. Defensively, I agree. I don't think the 2013 defense would have held up. I just I don't think they would have. They would have flaked. They would have fallen apart. And we probably would have seen Reggie Wayne running past Quentin Carter into the end zone for the game-winning score. So
Yeah,
that said, the defense did a great job. Took away the ball twice. That's not something we've seen them do in recent years. So getting takeaways is a big key. Again, I'm just pass rush was good, but it did disappear a couple of times, and that's what worries me. You can't give a quarterback like Andrew Luck that kind of time because he will pick you apart, like with Manning.
yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody was a little bit surprised and maybe had a little bit of overblown expectations for the return of Von Miller. I mean, I wouldn't say that he disappeared or that he was non existent because he actually had a good game. For any of you out there that follow Pro Football Focus, one of the greatest, NFL analytics sites, football metrics, Von Miller was one of a small handful of Broncos starting defenders that actually graded out in the positive last night. So he does impact the game, even in ways that might not seem immediately apparent or ways that just like jump off the screen. But I think one of the biggest things he's having to overcome in his recovery to get back to his let's say his 2012 form is that he's probably still not 100% confident in himself, and I don't mean that in the way that you know he doesn't think he's good at what he does, but rather confidence that his knee can sustain him and support him. When he is rushing the passer and he's trying to bend around the edge and hit the quarterback, is he confident that that knee's going to hold up? Questions like that inevitably are in the back of every player's mind who is trying to bounce back from a significant injury like that, especially knee injuries. Knee injuries can really affect a player's confidence, their burst, their explosion, even if they still possess the same level of it. It's like with Peyton Manning's neck. After 4 surgeries, I've read reports that technically his neck is actually stronger now than it was before the surgery. And a lot
Right.
of those same arguments can be made about surgically repaired knees. So in all likelihood, Von Miller's knee is probably just as strong as it was, a year ago or 2 years ago. But mentally, he has to overcome that obstacle of, not being sure and just those question marks surrounding it. And I think the more he gets back into the groove, playing in live game action, real game situations, we're going to see him turn the corner and get back to being the Von Miller of old. And with him in tandem with DeMarcus Ware, that's really a scary concept for the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, I do think Vaughn was not quite at 100%. He's definitely, I think he has to have the mental yips of just not being sure if he's at 100%. But even just take the way he performed, take the way DeMarcus Ware performed. I did see Vaughn dropping into short zones quite a bit actually throughout the course of the evening, whereas with DeMarcus Ware it was get after the passer mixed in with a little bit of get after the passer and just for variance, get after the passer. He was coming on the blitz absolutely ferocious and looking really good at doing it.
Oh yeah, I was surprised by how often Del Rio had Von Miller dropping back into those zones and being
Mm-hmm.
in coverage. And who knows? Maybe that's just was the way they game planned for the Colts. Maybe it has a little something to do with Von Miller, getting back to 100%. But the flip side to that coin is, look what Chris Harris did. Now
Mm-hmm.
he came back and he looked just like he hasn't missed a beat. But there is a
Yeah.
big difference between those two, and that is that Chris Harris partially tore his ACL, whereas Von Miller fully tore his ACL. And I'm not a medical doctor. It's not like I'm a surgeon or anything like that. But I would assume that there's got to be some kind of an effect or difference between the two, because Chris Harris, I mean, he was just hopping off the screen. He didn't force any big turnovers or anything like that, but he definitely affected the scope of that game last night.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And for me, Chris Harris had a great night. Aqib Talib had a great night. Bradley Roby stepped up. T.J. Ward looking great. Raheem Moore, whole secondary looked great. Quentin Carter, another player, looked great. For me, the story was the two unproven starters at linebacker next to Von Miller. You had Nate Irving, who went out and played a heck of a game. Um, Ended up getting a sack, multiple tackles for loss. He was everywhere. He really came out and had a fantastic performance to start things off for the Broncos at Mike. Next to him, you have Brandon Marshall, who wore the green dot, communicated the plays. Not the best night in coverage, but he did play every snap on defense for the Broncos. And if you're the Broncos, you have to be encouraged with the way those two looked. One of them, Nate Irving, the basically plug-in starter since training camp, and the other Brandon Marshall, the fill-in for Danny Trevathan.
Absolutely. And, I mean, Nate Irving, he's definitely a player that, there were some question marks surrounding him as the new Mike linebacker. And, it's taken him 3 years to finally get the full opportunity to take that role and kind of take the bull by the horns. And I was pleasantly surprised and pleasantly excited about what I saw last night out of him. So, Nate Irving, couldn't be happier to see what I saw last night.
Absolutely. I think that kind of sums up a lot of my perspective on the way the Broncos played last night. Yeah.
Dang it. Hang on. Hey, no, I'm in the middle of something. I'm
Yeah, so I think the Broncos played a heck of a game last night. They came out to play and it absolutely showed. Even the offense. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders, big free agent acquisition, came out, played good passing. He had about 3 catches, I want to say 67 yards. One rush, 11 yards. They were they were really looking to mix him in.
All right, I'm back. I apologize for that.
No problem.
I had to take that call. It was the wifey, but
Uh-huh. That
anyway,
supersedes everything.
yeah, it'll be nice when our director of video content can start producing these videos and won't have to rely on me, sitting in my office in front of the laptop. But anyway, one other observation that I had from last night is I thought that our D tackles inside with Williams and Knighton, the pot roast, I thought they both did really well against the run, but I wasn't very impressed with what they were able to accomplish, or actually what they weren't able to accomplish in the form of a pass rush, except for when Malik Jackson rotated in, and was rushing from the interior. But I'm hoping to see more from Pot Roast and Sly Williams. I really, this whole off season, I've been really tooting the horn that, just like we saw last year with Terrence Knighton really kind of taking that next step to the next level in his development as one of the league's premier D tackles. I really am expecting a similar kind of trajectory for Sly Williams this year. I mean, I know that Knighton has a couple of years on Williams in terms of how long he's been in the league, but Sylvester Williams is a superior as far as his just natural athletic ability. He's head and shoulders above Knighton, and it's just a matter of technique and a matter of understanding the game probably that Knighton might have over Williams. But I was hoping to see a little bit more from them in terms of the pass rush, but I'm sure that that'll change moving forward.
Yeah, and another name who's going to be in the mix there. Didn't really see much out of him last night was Marvin Austin, but Austin is definitely going to make an impact before this season is out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've talked about it, you and I, off air before, about just kind of how surreal it is a little bit to see Marvin Austin in the orange and blue. Because
Mm-hmm.
for me personally, going into the 2011 draft, I was so hoping the Broncos would draft him. And when he fell to the second round, I mean, I was certain, like a lot of other members of Broncos country, we all were pining for the Broncos to take a defensive tackle, and they finally somewhat accommodated our request in 2012 when they traded out of the first round and took Derek Wolfe. But the year before that, I was hoping they'd take Austin, and it's one of those things, serendipity. His first 3 years in the league, he was a bust, and that was in large part due to his, history with injuries and his problems there. But fortunately, he got the corrective surgery on his back. He found a team that still believed in him, brought him in, and it's no small thing on a team as deep as the Denver Broncos for a player like that to come in and unseat a veteran in Kevin Vickerson, who has a huge locker room presence, is
Mm-hmm.
widely loved and respected by the coaching staff. So for Marvin Austin to be able to unseat him or usurp him, if you will, that really is saying something.
Absolutely. And there are just so many players on this defense that we haven't really heard their name called, and it's exciting to see that coming.
Yeah, but as always, everybody, from the Mile High Huddle, we're going to be bringing you Broncos content each and every day. We're going to be bringing you more videos. As we've mentioned, they're going to be a little bit better produced than what you're seeing with our Luke and I, our Google Hangout.
We're amateurs.
Yep. And then, but tonight, I just want to remind everybody that you can find Luke and I on Twitter. My Twitter handle is CJ_Broncos. You can find Luke also at MHS Radio. And keep an eye out for some of our other staffers, our other analysts at Mile High Huddle. You can find Eric Trickle on Twitter at Alaskan Bronco. You can find Brandon Perna at Brandon Perna, as well as our fantasy guru, in-house fantasy genius, Khalid Al-Shami. You can find him at Twitter at KAL_Broncos.
Absolutely. And looking forward to getting you some Broncos content all season long. Hope you'll join us. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, at the very least. And see you next time.